Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox Studios, and thanks for logging on. Well, we've returned to the week, and the weekend is behind us, but the fun does not end. This is Monday Mailbag, your show, your questions. I'm here with Jason Mane of Watchbox.
I'm back.
Fan favorite here to answer your questions in live time. We've got our talking points, but we are all too eager to discard them to field your live questions. That said, I do want to remind you that we have an all-new website. Watch You Want is now the Watchbox, for those of you who are joining us for the first time in a while. New brand, new name, and an entirely new way to buy, trade, and sell watches. Check out thewatchbox.com. It's more fun than our old site. It's faster than our old site. It's easier to use. And I've got to be honest, I've become addicted to our new arrivals page where you can see the latest watches as they come in. Try to beat me to that JLC minute repeater. Try, but fail. I know you won't prevail. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about watches and blades. Wrist shot, Jason. What are you wearing tonight?
Wrist shots. Well, it might come a surprise to you that this is still on my wrist, but I have to say it hasn't left. Besides sleeping, it hasn't really come off the wrist. I've worn it since I got it every day. I haven't even transitioned to like my weekend Seiko or Sunto, which is usually a Saturday, Sunday thing for me. So.
All right, so that's the 9 to 5 watch around our Watchbox headquarters. Now, show me what else you've got, because I can see you always bring a selection from your personal collection of custom knives. They're mostly custom knives. And you've got two interesting pieces tonight. Show us one of these and save one for later. All
right, so we'll save the really pretty one for later. This is actually a production knife. This is a little small fixed blade company here. It's called Bradford, excuse me, and this is M390 steel. This would be something that carry on a horizontal belt sheath, and relatively small little fixed blade in 3V. Pretty good knife. Green micarta. I see, you'll notice the custom little sriracha bead there because it's a spicy little knife.
Now, what's that finish called? Is there a specific name for that?
Yeah, so this would just be a like a brandished or a dark stone washed finish. And then the green micarta is actual natural material, so you'll see in some spots it's dark, and that's just from where it rubs up on the sheath, and then it'll get real dark, and you go to use it, and then your hand will absorb all the oil, and it'll get light, so it's kind of cool material.
And what would something like that cost for our viewers who are so inclined?
About $250 or so.
Okay, so that's, comparatively speaking, that's a pretty good deal as your custom knives go.
Well, so this is a production fixed blade, but for a custom knife, that would be a fantastic price. But yeah, this is M390 steel, which is really nice.
And the reason we do these kind of show and tells every time Jason is on, because we know a lot of our friends out there enjoy everyday carry, not just the watches, but all the other things guys pack onto their wrists, pockets, and wallets. Of course, however, you know, I'm pretty monomaniacal, so I'm all about the watches. Tonight I'm wearing my Jaeger LeCoultre Platinum Reverso number 2. It's a limited edition from 2003. It is a Platinum Reverso, Grande case, and white gold dial and ruthenium, white gold movement with tourbillon. Lovely little watch, probably my grail watch for years. 2015, this finally happened for me right around the same time Govberg bought up Watch You Want, so it was kind of a milestone watch, and it's probably the flagship and the personal pride of my collection. Lovely little piece. I enjoy sharing with you guys. All right, so I can see quite a few friends. Longfinger, Tim, glad to be back in the chat. By the way, folks, it came to my attention that a ton of people had been banned by a previous deputy of mine, and I pretty much unbanned and unhid everyone. So if you had trouble posting either in the comments or participating in the live chat, your privileges should be restored. That's not something I like to do. Okay, Jason, so tonight we're playing this or that, and two-tone flagship chronographs from two August manufacturers. I'm going to say this one's for the millennial ladder climbers who have outgrown hipster totems of status and finally actually have some money to spend. So tonight, Omega Moonwatch Co-Axial Master Chronometer Moon Phase Chronograph. For those keeping score, it's going to be all the air in my lungs here. It's Omega reference 304.23.42.02.06.001, 14,300 US. Shockingly good for a yellow, gold, and steel two-tone watch. I have to say, Omega, please crop your names and reference numbers. The product is unarguably awesome. So I'm happy with that. 44.25 millimeters, mainly in steel with yellow gold accents, 18 karat yellow gold, and green ceramic bezel. This is a handsome watch that came out at Basel World 2016. It was a boutique exclusive, 100-meter water resistance, so this is an all-arounder as sports watches and everyday carry goes. Caliber 9904. It's not just a chronometer, it is the Métas Master Chronometer standard, carrying the 4-year warranty, and it is a 60-hour power reserve, vertical clutch, column wheel, function selection, and chronograph actuation, twin mainspring barrels, display case back, and I should say silicon amagnetic hairspring on a full balance bridge free sprung. Very tough, very precise. Jason, that's your first choice. I don't know, are you prejudiced in favor of Omega over Zenith? Because Zenith has got a strong response.
Well, so the second choice is a Zenith?
The second choice is a Zenith. We love the brand, but let me tell you what's on offer.
I'm going to ask you to repeat all of that over again.
Of course, and I've got all night, guys. But Zenith Chronomaster El Primero Grande Dot Full Open. Reference, come on guys, don't do this to me, 51.2530.4047/78.c. 810. Okay, Zenith, you're guilty of the same. Pare down those reference numbers. Look how Rolex does it, and they've made like 1 billion watches. Okay, so Zenith, rich rose gold and steel case, really handsome, 45 millimeters, a Basel World 2017 debut and one of the best in the Zenith Basel World Novelties collection. This is a watch that also has 100-meter water resistance, so though it's fine, it's also tough, and it has a full open dial with the Grand Date double-digit twin disc, moon phase and sun moon phase. So not only do you have the 29.5-day moon phase, but you also have the 24-hour cycle of the sun and the moon to keep that romantic dial a little bit less static. And finally, you've got the high beat El Primero chronograph, 10 beats a second, 52-hour power reserve, column wheel actuation, and really awesome dial detail with depth and color and visual interest such that you really don't need to look at the display case back to entertain yourself. 12,200 US. Jason, which one do you take for yourself and why?
So I think first and foremost, so we start looking at the movements. So I love that 9904. I think it's fantastic. All the improvements to that movement are, you know, standalone. I personally, if I was going to choose one and just choose it to own it, like we always talk about, I think the Zenith gains a little bit of my favor. The green ceramic bezel on the Speedy is nice, but besides that, for me, the true Speedmaster has to be a 42 millimeter and it has to be manual.
Okay.
Okay, so when I start looking at Speedmasters that are 44.25 and you're talking about automatic movement and it's a limited edition, which let's be honest, there's tons of limited edition Speedmasters. I think the Zenith brings something a little bit more special. I love the Grande date. Not always a fan of open work movements, but I think that this is clean enough that I could get away with wearing it on a daily basis. And I think it's just, overall, I like the strap a little bit better too. I think it's a handsome watch.
Okay, I would never make the strap be the deciding factor for me, but it sounds like there's a lot to distinguish these two from each other. For me, the Omega would be the choice. I love green. I actually find the use of yellow gold here to be rarely exquisite. Like, this is something, two-tone yellow gold and an oversized steel case. You ask me intuitively, would I like this? No, but the way Omega has resolved it, the balance of the colors, the use of the accenting, especially that green and gold ceramic bezel, this is a special piece that speaks to me. So while I am a Zenith fanboy, this would be my choice of the two. All right, so we can see in our chat box, people joining us from all over the place. I've seen Florida, I've seen Utah, I've seen Brazil, I've seen Scotland, I've seen half of Europe already, guys. Keep it coming. And I also see JBO Surf. Speaking of AMG, a friend has just taken delivery of a Green Hell AMG GTR. What a beast. I love green machines in all of their forms. Rock on, man, down in Adelaide. Okay, and we got a friend joining us from Pakistan. Thank you for joining us in a difficult hour to be watching YouTube. I appreciate you staying up for this. Okay, Denmark, welcome, and Northern Virginia. Our next discussion, and it's a brief one, is Instagram, folks. Instagram update, you can follow me on Instagram at Tim_Mosso. Follow me and see what I see. It's usually going to be a watch. It's often a JLC, but believe me, I will throw you curveballs. It's not just going to be the JLC hit parade. I'll occasionally throw a car in there, do some this or that's, and I love videos. So hopefully I find a way to add value on Instagram. And for those of you following the Watchbox Global Instagram account, I'm going to be taking that over tomorrow and commandeering our Instagram stories. So see a full day through the eyes of Tim Mosso. Hint, it's probably going to start with a bike. All right, so viewer questions, guys. Remember, this is Monday Mailbag. Jason's going to be watching the chat box to catch the live questions, and I'm going to be going through my programmed questions that you emailed to me or asked in our question boxes. First, 2 questions from 2 separate guys about the same incredible watch. The Jaeger LeCoultre Master Compressor Extreme Lab 2, we first saw it in 2010. It wasn't available to 2014. Why? Because it was really hard to get this one right, even for JLC. This is a watch that is 46.8 millimeters in ceramic and titanium. It is a watch that is grade 5 and black ceramic, occasionally chocolate ceramic, and it's a digital chronograph with a GMT, automatic winding, 65-hour power reserve, date, column wheel function selector, multifunction crown, vertical clutch, remote hacking lever. It actually has a second column wheel that you control with the crown to select different functions, quick release strap system, micrometric pin buckle to allow you to precisely adjust it, 2 accessory straps, 100-meter water resistance, and a shock-resistant case and caliber. It's a mouthful, it's a wristful, and we have a full slate of questions. Bob L. asking, I'm considering the Extreme Lab 2. Given this grade of sports watch, what are the alternatives, and what do you think of them? Okay, Bob, this is the Cliff Notes version, but realistically, the 2 alternatives that I think are most appropriate for comparison's sake are the Richard Mille RM11 Annual Calendar Automatic Flyback Chronograph. This is a watch that has what is essentially a Vaucher base and a DD Flyback Annual Calendar Chronograph module, albeit rendered in Richard Mille style and materials. Titanium, shock absorbent, 50-hour power reserve. This one has flyback functionality, which the JLC doesn't have. It does have a Grande date display and an annual calendar, but it doesn't have the JLC's second time zone, and it doesn't have anything as intuitive as the digital minutes counter. I'll also say at 115,000 to 125,000 in titanium and only 50 meters water resistant, you're paying a lot more, and I'm not sure you're getting a lot more durability here, but the style is unmistakable. Now, the other alternative is a watch I've never seen, and I'm pretty sure you haven't either, but it is the Aterna manufactured Porsche design 6910 indicator chronograph. You may remind yourself that this is the only other digital chronograph that I can think of. If you can think of another, remind me, please. 49 millimeters in titanium. This is a watch from the late 2000s that used a Valjoux 7750 base and then dramatically modified it to create digital minutes, tens of minutes, and hours. Big, extravagant, special, absolutely distinctive and unique. Nevertheless, they found a way to make a digital chronograph that's bigger and harder to wear than the 47 millimeter Extreme Lab 2. Prices pre-owned start about $85,000. You might see them around $100,000. Honestly, you'll be lucky to find one for sale, but that would be a realistic alternative as a digital chronograph. Red version or blue version? That's Bob's last question. I like the blue version, but the red version is less common, and I will also say that red or blue, you know, fire and ice, what do you prefer? It comes down to individual preference. Both are very appealing. Just note that the bezel design has changed a little bit between them, grooved on the red, buff on the blue. Jason, do you have a thought on that, the red or the blue? Because we've
red,
had both.
100%.
Wow.
Hands down. Probably my favorite color combination for anything is red and black. Green being my favorite single color, in case anybody wondered. But red and black, just there's something about it. That particular watch is I've been on here before telling you how much I love that watch. I think there's a lot of engineering behind that, and in every aspect of the watch. So buckle with the ratcheting buckle, the pin buckle interchangeable or comes off, the different straps.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It fits me.
It's something to be seen. If you haven't seen one in person, it fits a wrist like you wouldn't expect it to with the straps. So I'm surprised that you like the watch as much as you do.
I
But it
do.
is a JLC. So.
It's compelling, whether you're a JLC fan or not. I forgot to mention another feature. It has ratcheting lugs, like literally like a ratchet. Click, 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 click. So it conforms to the shape of your wrist. So pencil wrist, you're still good to go. Okay, now here's the thing. Ryu S asked about the Extreme Lab 2, and he asked, I'm planning to get the red version of the Extreme Lab 2. Like you know, he's sitting dead red. Okay, what's a good price? What if I say I get it as an investment? I would say a good price pre-owned is $29,000 to $30,000. New, the blue version is the only version made in titanium and ceramic now. You're going to pay $50,500. Is it a good investment? Buy it pre-owned. I don't think you're going to lose anything. As with all new watches, buy it new and you're going to pay a premium and suffer some depreciation for the right of having the first DNA on the strap. Okay, he says it's a sports watch. Can I wear it every day? Yes. If your office is the kind of place where you feel comfortable wearing a $50,000 watch the size of a fist, then yeah, there's nothing about it that would make it tough to wear every day. It's ceramic, it's tie, it's tough, it's automatic, and it's got a useful complication. A date, a chronograph, and a second time zone. All right, tie van, can it be easily polished? Not by an independent, you're gonna have to send this to the factory. Independent refinisher won't even be able to take it apart. Okay, original strap. Should I avoid using it? No, because you can always buy another. Don't worry about straps. That's a service item. It's a wear item. It's a consumable item. Finally, he says, I mentioned that JLC probably didn't make a dime on this after development costs, and he knows the first owner of the watch. If you're buying pre-owned, you're good to go. Like I said, private sale after you buy it, 5 years from now, you won't lose anything. It's the cost of servicing. Expect to pay $2,000 to $2,500 if you need to service. But given the $20,000 discount from buying new, you'll be able to service the watch for the next 3 decades and still come out ahead. Okay, so guys, interesting questions coming through JPG. This is following Fernando. What would you take, Jason? A Journe, you're going to trade a Journe Chronomètre Bleu, bold, for a Patek 5212 Power Reserve and Moon Phase, or a Lange Zeitwerk. Which one do you go for? You trade in the blue.
Do I have to trade it?
It sounds like he's already decided.
If you've already made up your mind, I'd
Yeah.
probably hold on to it. We're seeing a lot less of those making their way to retail and to shops lately, so I think you might want to hold off on that. The blue is probably slated to go up a little bit just on the secondary market, just because they're not delivering. And those dials, from what we've heard, the dials are increasingly harder to make, and so that's the shipping delay. So I might hold off.
I would say this, realistically, if you have a chance to trade the blue and get a Patek 3712, the one-year watch from 2005, that would be a special piece that I would say would be worthy of trading the Journe. I would also say even with the trade of the Chronomètre Bleu, you're going to have to kick in some money to make that happen. I would also say, look, the Chronomètre Bleu, the 5712, and the Zeitwerk are nothing like each other, and the Zeitwerk is much bigger than the other two. So I would try all three on. Personally, I love Lange. The Zeitwerk is absolutely unique. It's so special that I would say, even if you're going to have to kick in some money on the trade of the Bleu, I would go with that because that's what I love. And for me, if you're all about the movement, and you like the quirk factor, you go with the Zeitwerk. If you want the hottest watch of the moment, of the three, it's the Chronomètre Bleu. And if you want to get your watch wet, of the three, it's the Patek. They're all good choices. I would say try all three before you pull the trigger. Okay. So that said, I want to announce my policy on Jaeger LeCoultre questions. And here's why. I get asked so many JLC questions at this point that I could probably write the official FAQ for the company website. The FAQ, that could be me, and I could spend all day writing it. So I'm going to limit to one JLC question per episode, so this doesn't become the Tim Mosso JLC Lovefest / Hobby Corner, or the corporate FAQ. That said, guys, keep the questions coming. Okay, so Luis Ariza from Mexico asks, my current collection is a Rolex Daytona ceramic, lucky you, ceramic sub GMT Coke bezel, JLC Geophysic 1958 Tribute steel. I have a Reverso Tribute to 1931 with the Fagliano shell cordovan strap. I have an Omega Speedmaster, first Omega in space, a Panerai Luminor PAM 104, and the TAG Heuer Monaco re-edition. He wants to add one of these new watches, and Jason, I'm going to let you kind of go through these and let him know whether you would go with any of these options or his alternative, which is to save the money and buy one Patek Nautilus 5711.
Sure. So first of all, fantastic collection.
Yeah, you're already set.
Off. I mean, you're on your way. Put it like that. So it looks like what we're looking at the. He had a couple different back and forths, right? So we're looking at a TAG Octavia. Or the Railmaster. Was that the 57th anniversary Railmaster?
Yeah, the 1957 60th that came out this year.
So, yeah, I would say this is a watch, specifically the Omega is a watch you have to try on. I think it's always a good bet to try everything on before you purchase it, but some of the newer generation Omegas sit a little funny on the wrist. When we're talking about a bracelet, they usually always fit well when you're doing a NATO or a strap, but for some reason the last couple Omega bracelet pieces that I've tried on just didn't sit well on my wrist, and I've heard that from a few clients, so it might be something you want to try on. Between those two pieces, I would say you're going for more of like a vintage flair, and I think the TAG would be where I put my money. Looks like second question was a Hublot Reverso Fusion. Oh no, I'm sorry, Hublot Fusion Gray Titanium.
Yes.
And then the Zenith Range Rover.
Yes.
And between those two, I think hands down, I go with the Zenith.
Yeah, the Zenith Range Rover is gorgeous.
Hand over fist, yeah. And,
guys, can we do a full screen of the Range Rover? Slick. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. In either variation, you can't go wrong there with the strap. Nice piece. And then we were looking at the JLC Deep Sea alarm.
Guys, just to clarify, Luis sent us basically like 3 this or that's, and then would you take one of those 3? Would you take all 3 of those over a Patek? So the next is a LeCoultre Deep Sea alarm.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, there's a whole list here. Or an ultra thin.
Yes.
I'm looking at it.
A master.
And then that's a weird option for me because it's like dive watch or dress watch. So, in my opinion, probably the ultra thin, I guess, based off what's already in his collection.
Yes.
Something a little dressier to round out the collection. And then finally, he's asking about a 5711. So if he should pick up, I guess, 3 different pieces or one 5711. And I would say, yeah, stainless steel 5711. Probably talking right around 30 grand in a white dial, box and papers. And if you don't mind spending that far off retail, I would probably pick up the 5711 because in the end, the 3 pieces, even if you were to get the Zenith, the JLC and the other piece, at the end of the day, they're all relatively mild price points, and you're never going to quite get out of them what you put into them. Where the 5711 is probably a piece that you stick to for a very, very long time in a collection. So.
I would say, if you had to ask me, Luis, it would be best to get 3 watches over 1. I think 3 watches will give you more pleasure, more opportunities to mix it up, have fun. I think having a collection or a single watch, unless you're looking for a true milestone watch, like if you just got a PhD, you just got an advanced degree, a child was born, you're getting married. If you need one watch to mark a monumental occasion in your life, the Nautilus. If you are just looking for pure pleasure and the satisfaction that comes from 3 watches, including complications, versus 1, then I'd go with the collection. And for me, it would be the Railmaster 1957, it would be the Zenith Range Rover, and it would be the Deep Sea alarm. So that would be my choice. All right, so questions coming in. This is from Nana Adoro, who is a longtime viewer of our shows. Jason, do you think the Black Dial Explorer 2 216570, the quote, modern Steve McQueen in 42 millimeters, will be a future collectible?
I could certainly see it becoming even more popular than it is now. I think with Rolex, we see things that are very popular now kind of fade off, and the things that nobody wanted at the time become very collectible later on. And right now, the white dial, the Polar, is so hot, and the black dial is kind of pushed off like the stepchild. So I could see in 5-6 years the black dial being the more sought after piece, and I could certainly see that happening.
I would not be shocked too, guys, if the next Explorer 2 is a 41 or a 40 millimeter case. I think we might see a day-date-like resizing of the case for practicality and traditionalists, which would make this generation a bit of an anomaly, and anomalies are what Rolex collectors love. So if the black dial is the less common of the two, and we feel that this could be a one-off case shape and case size, I would say if you like the watch, buy with confidence. It's a great piece, and you won't see nearly as many as you will Rolex GMTs of all stripes, black and blue included. All right, so we have lots of questions coming in. Guys, keep these going. Keep these going. I love this. Okay, so question, when will Mike be back on the air, asks Alexi from Finland. Mike will be back this Thursday, so mark your calendars. No, not this Thursday. Watch Girls? Oh, no, hang on. I think we're going to have a taped show, and it's not going to be Mike. Sorry, guys, you're stuck with me this Thursday because it's the American Thanksgiving holiday. Okay. Least favorite Rolex Daytona. Eddie Landsberg is mentioning the infamous Leopard Daytona, and just type in Leopard Daytona on Google, you'll get it. It looks like something Madonna would have worn circa 1988, and honestly, it's the most bizarre Rolex of the modern era. I don't know what they were thinking, but one of them did sell for a lot of money at auction in November of 2013, so crazy has friends. All right, so let's continue with our questions as forwarded by our users. This is an interesting one because it's straight Rolex. Bob B asks, I've been looking at picking up either a late model, by the way, city set, yes, public defenders outside, God bless them. We coexist. All right, so Bob B asks, I've been looking at picking up either a late model 1460M Submariner. This is the pre-ceramic no date, post-2000. I'm showing you a solid end-link chronometer certified version, post-2006. These were around till 2011. Or 16600 Sea-Dweller, so the Sea-Dweller 40 that was killed off by the deep sea in 2008. I was loving the glossy dials on the Sea-Dwellers, Bob says, but I'm starting to wonder if people prefer the matte dial Rolexes based on what I'm reading on forums. Am I wrong? Can you shed any light on the collectibility? Well, Bob, you're not wrong. The matte dial watches are favored by collectors who are looking to make money or demonstrate their snob credentials to other snobs. I would say first and foremost, buy what you love. If you think the glossy dial looks better, buy that, because you're the one who has to coexist with it, and in time, every Rolex becomes old. In time, every Rolex becomes a classic of some stripe. This one's just not quite as far along in the process. Now, I will also say that you can't get a 16600 with a matte dial. That post-1988 version is only going to be available with the gloss dial, with the lacquer, with the white gold indices and hands, which means that if you want a matte dial, you have to go with the original Sea-Dweller, the 1665, which was made from roughly 1967 to 78, or you're going to have to go with the legendary 666, which I talked up in our last episode, which was made from 78 to late 1987. And you're only going to find that through about 1985, the 666 had a matte dial. So that corresponds roughly to 8.5, 8.6 million in the serial count up. So those are going to be a lot more expensive than the glossy dial 666s. You're going to have to spend real money for the, I don't know what to say, the secret handshake, the nod and the wink to please forum snobs. And I wouldn't recommend you spend it unless you're looking to stash that watch in the safe. I say you get the 16600, you buy the newest, best documented, and most complete set available, and you just wait for time to pass you by, and it will, and that watch will become a collectible, and you'll have both enjoyed your watch more for it and ultimately passed into the ranks of Rolex vintage collectors. I'll also say don't pay for hype ever. Buy what you like. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree 100%. I think as a collector of many things throughout my life, you know, more so into the knives, but also watches and cars and anything else, baseball cards, you have to really stop and think, am I doing this because I love this? Or am I doing this because of the praise that I get from the other guys that do this? So we kind of get into this rhythm where even as watch guys or knife guys or gun guys, where it's about the hunt.
Yes.
And we hunt the thing and we find it and we kill the prey and then we have it and then it's not fun anymore. So then we hunt again. And I think if you really are honest about what you're trying to do and what you want to do, and you take the time to think about what you're collecting, you slow down, the hunt becomes better, the kill is now a trophy, and you enjoy it for the entire time that you own something. You made reference to something which struck home with me, whereas when you put that watch on, every single time that you wear that watch, you start to think about like the homework that you did when you're hunting the watch, right?
Yes. Same
thing with the knife. If I'm after a knife, and every single time it goes in my pocket, I think about the conversation I had with the maker when we were thinking about what we were going to do. So you really have to do it because you love it. So I would never buy a watch because what somebody else might think when they see me wearing it. I buy the watch because of how it makes me feel when I wear it and what I think of when I look at it. So I think it's take that to heart and kind of slow down and enjoy your collection.
Okay, good points. Good points all. So a question from Cleveland Dean. He's asking, being that it is a more wearable size, why do you think the Breitling Avenger 2 Chrono doesn't get as much love, since the problem with the brand is size? Okay, so a smaller Breitling case size, not 44, not 48, so what's the problem? I think the problem right now is that people are confused by the size of Breitling's catalog. There are probably too many watch models, and I believe they have 11 model lines before you add Breitling for Bentley. So there are a lot of gems in that catalog. I could pick out easily half a dozen Breitling models that I think are all world competitive offerings that are charismatic and memorable and are likely to be enduring and offer great value and build quality and complication. The problem is, you know, it's like trying to find Waldo. You see nothing, you might see nothing but Waldo, but where is that one Waldo you're supposed to find? The one that's got, you know, the hat tilting to this side instead of that side? Guys, if you don't know what Where's Waldo is and you're coming from a different culture or language or nation, Google Where's Waldo, open it in a different tab. That's kind of like shopping for a Breitling today. So while the Chrono Avenger 2 might have a lot to offer the general watch enthusiast, it's weighed down a bit by a brand that confuses people, by its similarity to watches that are much bigger, and by the fact that right now, if you open up Breitling's website, you could spend hours trying to navigate your way to it through all of the other pages and subpages. Remember, they've got the Breitling for Bentley subpage, the Emergency 2 subpage. It's very difficult to navigate Breitling's website, and these days, all watch research starts on the net, generally on the company website, forums, and YouTube, which is why we're here. So that's my basic, in a nutshell, why the Chrono Avenger 2 has not received more love. Good product. If you like it, buy it. Buys are out there to be had, both new and pre-owned, believe me. All right. So questions coming through from Fernando. How do you compare Kari Voutilainen, Urban Jurgensen, De Bethune, and F.P. Journe? How handmade is Urban Jurgensen? Well, here's the thing. It varies by price. All of those brands really do. De Bethune is the only one, and Voutilainen, I'll say. Voutilainen and De Bethune, everything is excruciatingly handmade. Urban Jurgensen, like Jaeger LeCoultre, like Zenith, like La Suite Originale, has several levels of finish and complication based on several tiers of pricing. At the top, it's all sublime. You won't be disappointed with any of them. And if you want to look for something to kind of cue what their best model is, look for their dual direct impulse escapement. That's one to look for with Urban Jurgensen. That's going to be the top of their model line. With Kari Voutilainen, first of all, you can order whatever you want. Bespoke watchmaking is alive and well at Kari's place. Second, the finish is second to none in the industry. He rivals Philippe Dufour. He rivals the likes of Hajime Asaoka of Japan. He rivals guys like Marco Lang. I think you'll be very happy with the product that you get. And then finally, the question was, what do we think of De Bethune and F.P. Journe? Well, Journe is like the others. He has several tiers of finish. If you're going to unlock 700,000 Swiss franc to buy the Sonnery, you can get a degree of customization and impeccable hand finish. Whereas if you're buying something like the Chronomètre Bleu, you're going to get a combination of machine-assisted hand finish and true hand finish. And ultimately what you're buying with Journe movement is impeccable engineering, a very good level of finish, unique movement styling. Journe is one of the few houses, along with De Bethune, that self-consciously styles the movement, its structure, its depth, its individual components, its composition, rather than simply finishing what the engineering department provides. Journe and de Bethune style the movement before they finish it. So I would say of those, you're going to get the most consistently high finish at Kari Voutilainen and at de Bethune. All right. So here's a question from Captain Zed. Jason, Captain Zed has an 8-inch wrist diameter. Do you think an FP Journe Elegant 48 would fit and look properly proportioned on his wrist?
Yes. Buy the watch. Come try it. Actually, I talked to Cap, and he's coming in to our ball location, so cool. I'll put the watch on your wrist, and you can try it on. I have tried the watch on once a week for the last 3 months, liking the watch myself, and I have a 7 3/4 inch wrist, and I think it'll look fine on you.
Okay. Okay, so now we have another question from Christopher H. Christopher H. asked, when purchasing a pre-owned watch, how important is it that the dial and other important parts be original to the watch? Okay, so he says, this is obviously more important from a collectibility standpoint for vintage pieces, but also important for watches less than 20 to 25 years old. Is that the case? He asks. Well, I would say this is important because he asks, finally, how would I know that a dial has been changed? I would say consider this. Define what a new or newer dial is, and then define replacement. Okay, I think we can all agree, regardless of whether a watch is brand new and having damage repaired with a new dial or vintage, you must replace with factory. So let that be the first thing to keep in mind. Second, it's important to remember that new dials are principally a problem when they're factory supplied and fully documented when they appear on vintage watches. For instance, when there's something about the dial, whether it's tritium loom, radium loom, an ink that can't be recreated, a hand painting style that can't be recreated, signage for tritium and radium, or specific hand designs. This is what you need to remember. When something vintage can't be recreated exactly, even if it's a patina that's common, for instance, mid-1960s Speedmasters and tropical dials, or late 1980s gloss-style Rolexes and crazing cracks. If it's a distinctive patina that can't be recreated but is expected, losing the dial is going to be disastrous. That said, even with something like vintage Rolex, there are several levels of replacement. A redial done by an amateur, forget it. Watch is close to useless. A factory service dial, however, could come on several levels. Over the years, for instance, take that red Sea-Dweller. Guys, bring back up the picture of the Sea-Dweller, the dive watch we just had. There have been several different red Sea-Dweller service dials over the years. The first ones actually featured tritium signage at 6 o'clock next to Swiss, but they featured Luminova paint. The more recent ones feature the red script and the period fonts and indices, but they don't feature the tritium signage. So there are different levels of replacement dial, where some are closer to the original, others are less close to the original, but above all, they're factory. Original is still best. Factory replacement is better. Amateur is disqualifying. Now here's the thing, outside the realm of vintage, what if we're talking about a watch built in the last 20 years? Something, I would say, here's my example. My Master Ultra Thin 34. So here's my example of a new watch, relatively speaking, made in the 2000s, that got a new factory dial, and this both shows you how you can tell the dial has been replaced and should be a useful commentary on the importance of new dials or original dials on a recent watch. I bought this watch from Japan knowing that the dial was rough, that there was evidence of moisture intrusion on the dial and the movement due to rarity and good pricing. I bought the watch for $3,000. I then sent it to JLC with instructions, restore watch. And what I received was restoration of all the individual components of the watch, the bridges, the train wheels, as well as replacement of the dial, which was water damaged. It was replaced with an exact duplicate. Not similar, not a service replacement dial, the exact same dial. So the watch is now all JLC, factory, and immaculate. And even better, they won't do that kind of work. No factory will, without doing a full movement service, as well as restoration of case integrity and water resistance. So I now have a watch that's factory spec with a fully documented service and documentation that the dial is factory. as well as the hands, which were also replaced. That's fine. That's just a matter of making a recent watch whole again. This is not a collectible watch, a vintage watch, and it's not a watch whose different sub-permutations are defined by subtle changes in dial. They were the same throughout. So that's how you'll know if a dial's been changed. It's either a recognizable factory replacement, as on the older Rolex, a forgery done by an amateur, or it's a new watch with a receipt or an invoice from the factory showing a dial replacement. Jason, do you have any thoughts on that? The impact of a new dial on a modern watch?
I think you nailed, unless it's something, like you just said, unless it's something that specifically changes the value of the watch in a vintage piece, there's really no way around getting a new dial. I mean, you're just going to have a cracked dial. You're going to have a piece that's not complete. So sending it in, having it done the right way is the most important thing.
I think so too, and I think the red line on a vintage watch is integrity. If the dial is decomposing, like there's arrested decay. That's the ruins of ancient Rome. That's what you see when you go to Italy. They're not going to let you into the Colosseum if pieces are falling off and the thing's in danger of collapse. And the same is true of your watch. If the dial's flaking, if the dial feet are corroding and no longer able to secure the dial within the movement, if there's evidence of material from the decomposing dial getting into the movement, if radium has come loose, all of the above mean something's going to have to be done, and it's probably a dial replacement or dial reconditioning. So that's the red line. At the point it becomes a decomposing dial, or it's going to endanger the movement or the integrity of the watch, you've got to do something about the dial, and Rolex will replace it as best as possible with a service replacement. So will Omega, so will Breitling. They all have their individual way of doing it. Best case scenario, always restore a watch with the factory by first getting an estimate and asking if a restoration service rather than a conventional service is available. Finally, we have a question from our user, Edward K., who's picking up a watch for his 40th birthday, and he bought himself an AP Royal Oak Rose Gold. Congratulations, Edward. And he managed to try on a Patek Philippe Aquanaut 5168G. Now, the 5168G is the 20th anniversary Aquanaut, bigger than the previous 5167 by 2 millimeters, 42.2, white gold. He asked, is this a limited edition? The answer is no. I don't know how long they will be producing it, if it will be 1 model year, 2 model years, or until they redesign the basic watch, but I suspect it will not be a common watch. It is waitlisted, but as far as we know, there is no numerical lock as there is on the 5650 Aquanaut, not Aquatimer, but Aquanaut Advanced Research. Okay, it's also the first ever white gold Aquanaut, so it's a historic piece and beautiful in blue. Here's the other thing. He asks, if I plan to buy it and I wear it, do you think it will keep its value? I think if you wear it in the office and you wear it with intelligence and you don't do anything that can't be fixed in a factory refinish or service, you will be fine. You'll have a watch that retains most of its value, and whatever little nicks or scratches, Patek, either via refinishing or laser welding, will be able to make you good and whole. So you shouldn't have to worry about that being an impact on the value of the watch. Now, finally, he asks, this watch ultimately, not a limited series, he'd ask that, but because demand is high and the price is more than retail, what would be a good price to pay for this watch? Okay, that's difficult to say. I would say pay retail. Get on a wait list, and unless you just have to have it, make friends with our fine fellows at Govberg Watchbox, get on the wait list and pay the approximately $39,000 US retail price of the watch. Patek is pretty good at supplying premier dealers like Govberg. I don't think you'll be waiting the way you will like years for a steel ceramic Daytona. I think they'll deliver timely. I think you'll be well fulfilled long before my birthday next June. That's a gut feeling. All right. Otherwise, find one pre-owned and pay the ransom. That's not how I would go. What do you think, Jason?
I think, I mean, it's a fantastic piece. I think I'd wait for it. I'd get on a list, like you said. I'd make sure that I did my research. I like the fact that you tried the watch on, which a lot of people don't even get the opportunity to do that. And I think you'd be happy with it. It's something you keep for a very, very long time. Congrats. Happy birthday, by the way.
I would agree. It's only the 20th anniversary of the Aquanaut. It's only the first white gold Aquanaut once. If you can afford to buy new, if you can afford to buy pre-owned, you just have to ask yourself, how long do I want to wait? And finally, I wanted to address a question from the persistent Edward Layden, who keeps asking in our chat, is Zenith delivering the Dayfi 21? To which I respond, yes, they are. I've seen actual watches on the wrist of owners being delivered in Europe. I think they're launching in Europe, and then I think they're rolling out in the East and North America. So yes, if you've been patient and you are eagerly awaiting the incredible 1/100th of a second chronograph from Zenith, rest assured, it'll be on your wrist soon. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, tomorrow, I'm going to be taking over the Watchbox Global Instagram account's stories. So I'm going to try to update once an hour. And if I can pull that off, maybe we consider that a prelude to my long bandied notion of simulcasting the 24 Hours of Le Mans next June. Guys, we're back Black Friday on a Blog to Watch YouTube channel with This Week in Watches. Josh Thanos and I will be taking your questions, counting back the hits, and starting the season of commercial excess and holiday revelry right here, albeit on Ariel Adams, a Blog to Watch YouTube channel. Guys, I'm Tim, he's Jason, this is Watchbox. Thanks for logging on.